big 613. Add them all up, there you have it, 613 mitzvot, commandments in the Torah, which, as Rabbi Avram, the brother of the renowned Vilna Gaon, Rabbi Elijah from Vilna from the 1700s, writes in the beginning of his work, Ma'alot HaTorah, that these 613 are really just the basic foundation from which sprout forth and emanate hundreds, myriads of other mitzvot. God, how many commandments do you really need from us? How many things do we have to do? Rituals, customs. The basic idea, of course, is that God is telling us through the diverse sundry mitzvot that the Torah and the mitzvot that are encompassed within the various pages of the Torah are here to instruct, to guide, to govern every single aspect of our daily lives. We get up in the morning. How do we get dressed? Do we put on our right shoe first, our left shoe first? Which one do we tie first? How do we wash ourselves? How do we conduct ourselves in the washroom, in the restroom? How do we conduct our affairs between us and ourselves, between us and our fellow people, between us and God? Every single aspect of every single day of our lives is governed by the Torah and its manifold mitzvot telling us that you're right, there are a lot of customs, and at times it seems to be a little bit as if we're in shackles, as if we're restricted, constrained, perhaps a bit too much. But you know what? The same Torah tells us, the true free person, the true liberated individual is the individual who studies the Torah, because it's the Torah that gives us a structure, a framework within which to thrive, within which to get closer to God, to perfect our moral and ethical selves, and to perfect and refine our relationships with our fellow men, with our fellow people. Torah itself is labeled the Torah from the etymological root of hora'ah, of instruction. It's the guidebook, the instruction manual that guides us every day of our lives and governs every single one of our actions. So we need a lot of mitzvot. 613 comes down to a breakup of 248 of mitzvot taseh, positive commandments, and 365 mitzvot lo taseh, the negative commandments. If I could turn your attention to an interesting Gemara, a fascinating narrative from the close of Tractate Makot in the Babylonian Talmud, at the bottom of 23b, we find that number 613, and we find the interesting metaphor that the 248 mitzvot taseh, positive commandments, correspond to the 248 limbs in a human body. What about the 365 in the terminology of our Talmud? The 365 negative commandments correspond to the 365 days of the year. To borrow the terminology of the Zohar, that corresponds to the 365 gidim, the sinews in the body that connect the 248 limbs one to the next. What's going on here? Mitzvot taseh, positive commandments, keep Shabbat, keep the Yom Tovim, the Jewish festivals. I want you to hold the 4 species come Sukkot time. I want you to eat the matzah on Pesach. And here we have lo taseh. I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to hit your friend. I don't want you to curse your neighbor. I don't want you to steal. I don't want you to murder, etc. Explains the Maharal from Prague. You know why we have such a breakup? Because 248 limbs in the body give a person a specific form, what's known in Hebrew as a tzura, a shape and form. Your limbs shape your body. How do you shape your relationship with God? Every mitzvah is thus appropriately labeled a mitzvah, because the root to mitzvah comes from the idea of bitzavta, to be in the company with, litzavot, to join, to attach yourself to God. So God's giving us 240 ways of rising above the realm of nature to do things that are somewhat given to us as means through which to relate to our Creator, through which to attach ourselves to our Creator. Those in the mitzvot say they define and give structure and form to the relationship that we want to have with God. You want to be close to God? How many mitzvot do you do? It's not all or nothing, God forbid, however many little you want to take on, but that's going to be a gradual gauge for how you view the relationship you have with your Creator. The negative commandments correspond to the sinews. What are the sinews all about? They hold the limbs together. They maintain the status quo. Whatever form you decide to take on, they maintain status quo. Lo taseh says what? God says, don't mess with my world. Don't mess with Mother Nature. I made the world, that I gave you this item, and I gave your friend this item. Don't steal. Don't take his possessions. Don't take his wife. Don't steal his honor. Don't hurt him. Lo taseh, the negative commandments, is God's means of saying, leave my world intact. Leave this person with his reality, with his olam, with his own world, his relationship with God, leave that intact. Don't trespass onto someone else's property. And that's the idea that Maharal from Prague says is the same reason we find the metaphor of the 365 negative commandments to the 365 days of the year that are ruled by the sun, the solar calendar, which is what? The sun and the 365 days in the solar calendar is God's way of saying maintenance of Mother Nature, maintenance of the Olam HaTeva, of the world of nature. Leave my world intact. I want structure. I want a judicial system. I want to make sure that people know what they can't do to their friends, what they can't do to their neighbors, so on and so forth. So we have two basic categories of mitzvot. The general idea, the common denominator, is ways of getting close to God. That's why they're all labeled mitzvot. But the assays, the positive commandments, is how you define your relationship, like the ivarim, like the limbs in the body define your shape and structure, and that's going to define the relationship that you have with God. Coupled, of course, with the negative commandments, the 365, the sinews that hold the limbs together, the maintain status quo. 365 days of Mother Nature, the sun, maintenance of status quo. Assays, I'm getting close to God. Positive commandments, I want to get close. Lo tassays is what? Nachmanides says, connected to yira, restriction, restraint. I hold myself back. That's the relationship we have to have with God. That's why, parenthetically, Jews, Rabbi Shimon Shua pointed out, Jews shuckle. They shake a lot whenever they pray to God, whenever they learn. You ever study, you ever watch Jews? Jews are on fire, right? The flame of a candle is always flickering back and forth, to and fro. The Jew in prayer and learning is always shaking all over the place. He's always moving all around. Rabbi Shimon Schwab explained, because you have the dual relationship via the mitzvot, where I'm always coming close to God. Mitzvot aseh, I head forward to God. Mitzvot lo taseh, restraint, I hold myself back. I get close to God, I come back. Close, and I come back again. We need a lot of mitzvot. We need a lot of different ways of relating to God, and that's why the Kabbalists point out that we have 613 mitzvot corresponding to 613 parts of the body. The way we perfect every respective part of the body, whether it's a limb, whether it's a sinew, whatever it might be, there's a mitzvah that corresponds specifically to every single part of your body. How do you bring every aspect of who you are, of your essence, of your structural framework, how do you bring it to completion, to perfection? Only one way. You got to do mitzvot, and that's why every mitzvah, in some way, shape, or form, will tap into and be connected with one of the parts of the human body. Your whole body is involved in a mitzvah, because we want to demonstrate to God that we want to give our whole body, subjugate our whole will, our essence, our sense of anochiut, who we are, our individuality. We want to give that to God. We want to make ourselves subservient to God. We need a lot of mitzvot, but it's got to be broken down into two distinct categories: getting close to God and maintaining His world in status quo, not letting us fall down, not letting us fall beyond the maintenance level of spirituality that God wishes for us. With all these 613, combined with all the other mitzvot that are branches of these 613 roots, we have to perfect every aspect of who we are, of our being. We have to maximize our spiritual potential, get close to God, and understand that it's the Torah combined with the mitzvot that help us maximize our own personal spiritual potential and help bring about the general tikkun, a perfection, and a rectification for the Jewish people and for the world at large.